podcast for parents called Masterful Parenting. And I am also the mother of two, ages 26 and 16. Oh my gosh. So they're getting old.
I know sometimes when you mention the age of children, you're like, oh my God, do I mention it? Because I'm aging myself right now.
I don't mind. I don't mind. At least parents know I've been through all of that, been through all the stages, right? So I just want parents to know I have a 26-year-old. I've been through the stages. I have a teen now. I feel your pain. Don't worry. You know?
So let me
Yeah.
let me ask you then, childhood, teenage years, or adulthood? Which one do you think? What was the differences between the three from a parenting perspective?
Honestly, there's gifts in every stage. But I do miss them when they were young. Because just because they're so lovable and so affectionate, they're really pure joy when they're children. Like I think they say the golden years are age 6 to 11, something like that. But I really enjoyed that time, but I'm also enjoying the gifts that come with raising a teenage son because he gives me so much insight. He shares things with me, and I'm actually learning from him. And then with my oldest, having an adult child is also a gift because um, they just like to help you, and they're the ones that become more protective of you as you get older and they get older. It's almost like we're starting to reverse, our roles, but he's also a big blessing in my life. So I'm grateful for all the stages, but I do sometimes miss the baby stage and because they're just so cute when they're small.
Yeah, yeah. When like I know a number of my friends, they've recently got married and they recently had kids, and one of them is actually expecting her second. She's pregnant. Don't kill me for revealing the secret. I hope you've told your friends. So, one thing I really enjoyed about their experience was I have children myself, is when that child was born, from the father's perspective, from the mother's perspective, they notice a shift in their life almost immediately because now they're not only responsible for themselves and each other, but they're responsible for this family. What are the things that you notice change within your life or within you as a person when you first had your firstborn and then you had your second?
Well, I will say like fertility was an issue with me. So I waited a long time. Like I didn't have my oldest. Um, actually waited 7 years. Like I was married for 7 years before I had him. And so the waiting was difficult, but I think also the waiting made me appreciate motherhood more because it didn't come so easily to me. And then the second one was a complete blessing surprise 10 years later. So in that way it was really, really great. But how motherhood has changed me is before, because I had this longing to be a mom, I I realized that I wasn't brought up in an ideal situation. In fact, I had dysfunction and abuse in my home as a kid, and I didn't want to repeat that with my kids. I knew I wanted to be a mother, but I didn't want to repeat that. So I really was actively getting healing before motherhood. But what I realized is that actually sometimes you can't heal it all. Like you can't actually heal it all. And the motherhood, having a child, helps you to heal better because now you're in the role of the parent, right? And that's what we talk about. We talk about you are going to have triggers because of your childhood experience. And you might even be repeating things you're not aware of because it's so subconscious that you don't realize it. But then your kids are your mirror and they'll tell you, Mom, you're always telling me to do things, or you're always doing this, right? And so then now you're like, okay, I'm repeating a pattern. Like, why am I doing that? So our kids are gifts actually in the healing process of our childhood. Um, but I never knew I would love so deeply, and that's the gift of parenthood, motherhood, is that your heart opens up in ways you never expected. and you're always thinking of your kids. They're always on your mind. It doesn't matter. My oldest is on a fishing trip right now. He's always on my mind every day. I'm like, God, take care of him. Make sure he's safe. You know, it's a lifelong occupation, right? It's a lifelong mission, parenting. You don't really stop even when they're adults. You're still caring for them, with your heart.
When I hear that, I think of something that I like to call like your superpower, right? Where the children are inspiring you to become maybe the person that you always believed that you could be, but you just needed that push,
Yes.
right? So, and then your children are born and you're like, yes, here I am. I am Wonder Woman and I am Superman terrain, right? Like you're just
Yeah.
empowered and inspired. When it comes to parenting, then, and you mentioned patterns, how can someone identify some of the patterns that will show up from their childhood and the way it shows up in their romantic relationships?
Okay, so when we're children, when we have gone through, I call it childhood pain because it's different for every person. Like sometimes your childhood pain is your parents were like had such high expectations of you. And so you developed this perfectionism, right? Or sometimes your parents put on a lot of responsibility on you. And so you were parentified. You took on a parenting role, right? Instead of being a kid, you assumed responsibility. See, all of these are parts of childhood pain. It's not just trauma, it's not just abuse. But my background is I had abuse and I had trauma and dysfunction in my home. I didn't know my mom had mental illness until I was an adult. And she was up and down in her moods. And as a kid, this is the thing. As a kid, you don't know. You don't know that your parents are suffering. And so you just assume what they're doing is the right thing. But you absorb it as there's a flaw in you. That's the thing I want people to know because I was a high school counselor for over 17 years and I heard conversations from my teenagers. I heard what they thought of themselves based on what their parents did to them. Okay, so the punishing, the yelling, they never blamed the parent. They always blamed themselves. There must be something wrong with me if my parents yelling at me, if my parents abusing me. There's something wrong with me. They never blamed their parents. And so this is the message I want people to know is that this is why parenting is so like sacred because what we do to them forms their identity. And that identity is carried with them into adult life. And they repeat the relationships from their first relationship, which is with us parents, mom and dad. That's how they learn relationship from us first. And so if you are very controlling as a parent, they learn that controlling is love. And so then they attract a partner that controls them, right? Until they learn that it's not healthy. Or if they were like a lot of things were put on them, they took a lot of responsibility. Then, as an adult, they take on responsibility, so much responsibility for all the things that are happening in the relationship instead of sharing responsibility, which is what is healthy. So, these are some of the ways that it still shows up in our adult lives until we understand like what I teach is you need to know what is healthy because you didn't grow up in a healthy environment. So this is actually what is healthy. And then once we know it, then we can be aware, okay, right now I'm not being healthy or right now I'm not being treated in a respectful, healthy manner, right? And decide that I'm not going to keep reliving the pain of my childhood.
That is a difficult journey because you mentioned abuse, you mentioned neglect, you mentioned a number of things that a lot of people have go through, and a child holding the parent accountable is unheard of, right? Like if you go culturally, Western culture, Eastern culture, if you go even, let's say, Asian culture, Indian culture, Jamaican culture, Caribbean culture, Canadian culture, whatever the culture, for you to go to your mother, your father, you did me wrong. I
Mhm.
needed to be loved this way. To take them off the God throne
Yeah.
and to believe that you're just like me. How difficult is that realization to understand that my mother, my father maybe did not love me in the way that I needed to be loved?
I think it is really, really hard. I know for me, I had to have counseling as a young adult because I realized that it was showing up, like my childhood pain was showing up in my adult life. I was not confident because I had very controlling parents. I always guessed myself. I didn't know what my opinion was. I always asked everyone else what their opinion was. And this is the result of living in a home where you were not heard. You were seen but not heard. Your opinion didn't matter. And so that's what I learned as an adult. Like my opinion doesn't matter. And so I'm going to get everyone else's opinion. And that's actually just not healthy, right? And then as an adult, my mom and I, we have like God has really transformed our relationship. We are really, really close now. My mom's 87. Um, but honestly, uh, part of it is disclosing the story, like what you lived. You have to tell somebody. That's the first part of healing, is you need to tell your story to someone who's safe. It has to be someone safe, right? Because it's so traumatic. Like it's something that's so close to your heart because these are your parents. So you have to be able to share it with someone who's safe. It could be a spouse, it could be a counselor, a therapist, it could be a close friend. But that story has to come out of you. If it doesn't come out of you, it continues to live there. So we have to take it out. We have to take it out. This was my childhood experience. This is what happened to me. This is how I experienced my childhood, right? And I did it with a counselor. I also did it with my mom. I confronted my mom. I decided I'm not going to be almost 30 years old and not have a voice with my mother. So I had her come visit me. I wasn't living at the same. See, my mom was still very toxic with me as a young adult, and I had to move away from her. I had to get her. That's why I talk a lot about boundaries. We do have to have boundaries with unhealthy people if we want to get healthy. We cannot get healthy and continue to be exposed to abuse and negativity. So I decided to move away, but I had her come visit, and that's when I wanted to tell her my story. My dad died when I was 21, so I didn't have the opportunity to to confront him, but I had my mom still in my life, and so that conversation was so impactful because I got it out. I said, Mom, I'm not blaming. I teach parents this, like we don't blame our parents because our parents were carrying pain too. So we don't blame our parents. We speak openly without blame, but we tell them our experience. So my words were, Mom, I want to share with you my childhood, like how I felt about my childhood. I'm not blaming you. I just want you to know how I felt. When I think about my childhood, I feel sad. I feel really sad about my childhood, you know? And then my mom, she proceeded to tell me she was a single mom. She was stressed out financially, sorts of things. So she proceeded to tell me all the reasons why she couldn't give me what I needed. But I don't buy it. Because our job as parents, it doesn't matter what our struggle is. It doesn't matter if we're financially struggling, if we're struggling with our mental health, if we're struggling with other things going on, like extended family situations. It doesn't matter what we're struggling with. Our job as parents is to give our children what they need. So you got to get yourself together and you got to figure it out. And then you got to give it to your kids, right? The love, the attention, all of that stuff. So I let her talk, but inside of me, I was like, I'm still not accepting that. I'm not accepting excuses because I was a kid and I needed things and you didn't give it to me, right? But over the years, that was the beginning of me having a voice with her. And then over the years, I have continuously voiced my opinion, even though I was thinking, oh, she's going to disapprove. I didn't care anymore. I was like, I'm not pleasing. I'm going to be truthful because that's an authentic relationship, right? We didn't have authentic relationships with our parents if we were just trying to please them. But you to speak the truth in an authentic relationship. That's how you deepen relationship is by being honest and truthful. And so I did that, and she began to change and accept my opinion, how I felt about things. But honestly, I continued to love her, right? Because like I'm a Christian woman, and I believe that love is the greatest healer in any relationship. And so we have to focus on love. And I also tried to understand what happened to her. And my mom experienced trauma, actually a really bad trauma. I didn't know about it until maybe 5 years ago when I was in with a psychiatrist with her and she was telling the story. And then I was like, it helped me a lot to understand her, right? Because she experienced this trauma when she was 6 years old and she carried that pain with her throughout her life and never got help for it. And it came out, the trauma came out in this personality disorder, right? How she is up and down, the mood swings, all of that. So understanding her helped me to heal because now the message is it's not about you. It wasn't about your worthiness as a kid. It was about your mother's pain. Your mother was in pain and couldn't give you what you needed. And so then I released that and didn't hold it as my own identity, you know? So that's part of this healing journey is to understand that it was never about you. You were always worthy of love. You were a kid. Every child deserves love from their parents. Let it go because it wasn't about you and it was about your parents could not give you what you needed because they didn't get it in their own childhood. And then they weren't aware enough to fix the situation.
Do you then think some parents forget that oath that it's their responsibility to provide for the child in the best way possible?
I think if you've grown up with childhood pain, and this again, I don't want to shame parents and I don't want to blame parents because we do what we know. But then when we know better, we can do better, right? I think that's a Maya Angelou quote that I really love. My mom didn't know better. Like she understood she was not the best. This is part of why I can forgive her because she has no many times over the years has apologized to me. She still apologizes to me. The other day I was like, Mom, it's okay. I love you and you're forgiven. But at the time she didn't. But because she did when I was an adult, it made it so much easier for me to love her and forgive her. And but when she was a mom, like when she was raising us, she wasn't aware, uh, or she chose not to be aware. I don't really know the whole story, but I know that she had uh, um, this mental illness. It wasn't her fault, but she didn't get treatment for it. And that's why I want to say to parents, like, if you're struggling with your mental health, or if you have a family member who's struggling with their mental health, because I would have loved my aunts and uncles to confront my mom because I was a kid. I couldn't confront my mom. You have to intervene for the kid's sake. You have to say, you know, sister, brother, I'm worried about you. I think you need some help with your mental health. Like if somebody had intervened when my mom was a mother, that could have changed things for my brother and I, but nobody did. So We have to do that. We have to live more in community instead of in isolation. We have to we have to help people that need help because maybe they're not even aware, you know, that that's not normal for you to be always yelling at your kids, or that's not normal, for you to be complaining all the time and you can't see any light in your life. Like that's not normal, right? If they have someone that can shine that awareness, then there could be change in that family.
You mentioned community and you mentioned boundaries as well. When it comes to, let's say, parents that are new parents versus seasoned parents who've been there, done that, and they're professionals and they know exactly how to navigate life, but they're still learning themselves.
Mhm.
How important is it for new parents to create healthy boundaries and healthy communities about their growing new family?
It's super important. Like I didn't have a support network when I was a new mom, and I had postpartum depression. It was really tough. Um, so I just want new moms to know, new moms and dads, it's hard. Like you're exhausted, and being a woman, your body goes through so much. Like it takes a while for your body and for you to feel normal again after the birth. And it may be 2 years. Sometimes it's longer for some people. It just depends on you. But for me, it took a while for me to feel normal again after I gave birth. And I was exhausted. Like that, honestly, the sleep deprivation does things to you. So, you need to have people, you need to let people in. You need to say, to your parents, maybe, I need help, like I'm struggling. Like, don't be proud about it. Let people help you because it is overwhelming and you cannot be the best parent you can be when you are not at full capacity, right? Like when you're tired and you just walking through life, let people in. My mother-in-law came out and she was amazing. She took all the night feedings for a week, and then I felt like a new woman because I slept, you know? And so, yes, do it. Get help, get support. You need it.
I look at my situation growing up. I grew up without my mother or my father. I had my grandmother that raised me. God bless her and rest in peace to my grandmother. One thing I found was that as I got older, I reached a certain age in my life where I asked myself, Terrain, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? When it came to the relationship with my parents, because it was showing up in every part of my life. It was showing up with my friends, it was showing up in romantic relationships, it was showing up at work. And let me tell you, sometimes I'll be going to the grocery store and it'll show up in the line at the grocery store, right? It was just everywhere and everywhere. I couldn't escape this childhood trauma. And I think sometimes it grows in different ways for men and women in general. Like for a lot of young boys, young teenagers, they maybe get aggressive, right? They go out there
Yes.
and they find toxic friends and they may run into gangs and do petty crimes. And then the women are promiscuous and may find narcissistic partners, whatever the case is, right? It just shows how different we are and how we respond to trauma differently based on culture, gender, whatever. I went to my mother and my father, similar to you, and I said, this is my experience from my perspective. Before you say anything, because my parents love to answer questions without listening, but they're just answering to respond. Oh, I wasn't do that. I was the best. Just calm it down. That's your perspective.
Mm,
So what I told them is this is my perspective and this is how I felt. I don't feel this way anymore. But that doesn't mean that your behavior is right today when it was wrong yesterday. It's still wrong, still going to be wrong tomorrow. But as of today, I decide to move on and I want to build something better.
mm.
That conversation about making a choice between being right or happy, how difficult do you think that is for some people? And if it is difficult, why is it so?
I think It's difficult because we're looking outside instead of inside. You know, life is an inside job. I'm just saying. You have to work from the inside out, right? So you have to pay attention to what do you need to feel good, to heal from that experience. Maybe you need self-care. Maybe you need to focus on things that make you happy. Maybe you need to surround yourself with loving, supportive people because you didn't get that when you were a kid. But whatever you need, you give that to yourself. And then now you will, they call it your foundation, right? Hakeem is a really good coach. He talks about this. We have to focus on our core, our foundation of who we are as people, our values, how we feed ourselves, what we're consuming, right? Consume what your consumption affects your life. So what are you consuming? Are you consuming negativity? Or are you consuming things that are life-giving and energy? So we have to work from the inside out, and we have to let go of the desire to change others. Let it go because holding on to it does nothing for your life. And honestly, we're not on the planet to change anybody. We're only on the planet to change ourselves. This was a life lesson I learned several years ago. We're not here to change other people. We're only here to change ourselves. We can give support to people, but if they don't want our support, they're not going to change. So remember that. Let it go. Only focus on you, how you want to live your life, and what's going to fill you and give you energy, give you hope, fill up your dreams, right? That is how you're going to thrive on earth, honestly. So let it go. Let go of trying to change people. Even your kids, don't stop trying to change your kids. Accept who they are and what they're showing you. And you can guide them, but let go of this preconceived notion of how they should be, because that how they should be causes conflict. And we don't want that.
When you say that we're not here to change people, it makes me think about conditional love. And I will love you this way if you do X, Y, and Z. But the thing is, you can't ask me why about X, Y, and Z. You just do what you're told. And a lot of people grew up that way, right? You do what you're
Mm.
told. I'll give you something to cry for. When we accept that we're not here to change people, that journey then towards a better version of ourselves, a new identity, how lonely is that journey?
I don't know. I didn't find it lonely at all. Like, but because I'm a God woman, so God's always with me, walking me through everything. So find it lonely at all. I found when I went inside, when I became um, focused on the inside out, that it helped me be with people better. But if I felt unstable internally about who I was, about questioning everything, about all the negative thinking, then I showed up differently with other people. Do you know what I mean? Like you show up because you're not confident, you're not secure, you haven't paid attention to nurturing yourself, to developing yourself. And so then you show up with people in a needy way, you know? Like, how come they didn't call? Like, you take things personally. You're like, how come they didn't call? Like, I don't do that anymore, but I used to be like that. I would be like personalizing. They must not like me. They didn't call me back. Like that crap. That crap is wrong. It's lies. Until you know the truth, don't assume things about others. But that is a symptom of not taking care of the inside, the core, because the core does not get offended by other people. The core is good with themselves. Your core self is like, I'm good. I'm fine. You don't want to call me. That's okay. We live on a free planet. It's totally fine, right? But when you're not paying attention to the core and not nurturing yourself, your identity, then you get upset and sensitive about everybody else's reactions or interactions with you.
For those people, let's say their love language is quality time and they need people around them to feel good about themselves, or they need that exchange, energy to energy, soul to soul. When it comes to them being worthy of becoming a better person, what role do you think maybe shame and guilt plays in them feeling that they're worthy of the changes that you're describing to become a better person?
Well, I'm not going to say that the outside can't influence the inside. Like I've had a lot of mentors in my life. Um, you can have people that are on your side cheering you on, and that can fuel you to see yourself in a different way. That's actually really great. That's why I say surround yourself. Okay, this is what when I'm counseling teenagers, this is the conversation I have with them. I say, right now in your life, you have no choice. These are your parents. These are the people you have to be with. But when you're an adult, you have complete choice over your life. You can decide, I'm going to only have supportive, loving friends. You can decide, I'm going to have a boundary with people who are unhealthy with me, right? And because you live function, you are worthy in your adult life to live with love and caring people, right? That's the conversation I have with them. So, yes, you can have, just remember if you've come from childhood pain, you are deserving of having that love in your adult life. And so, have a boundary with people that are overstepping, not listening to you, not caring about you in the right way. Um, Take away all the transactional relationships because those are not good for you. You don't need transactional relationships. You need unconditional love and support. That's what you should have gotten when you were a kid, and that's what you can choose as an adult. Don't be a victim. Choose that and surround yourself with positive people so you can still structure your environment so that you are getting the nurturing that you didn't get as a child.
A girl that I used to date a number of years ago, she became accustomed to the transactional relationship. And then not only was she the recipient of it, it became her norm, and then she started to give it out. So now it's not only, now it's both ways, right? And I think this happens to a lot of people where they've been hurt so much and so often that now they're going out and they're hurting people and they may not even be aware of it. It's just this is what love looks like for me and to me. So when she came in contact, or so sorry, when she realized that she was doing this, there was a struggle because she's going from what she's known and what she's been accustomed to new ground. And anyone that knows when you approaching that new ground, your body starts tingling, your mind's going crazy because you're like, I don't know about this journey terrain. If I go left, it's new territory. My mind and my body doesn't know it. But if I continue going right, I'm used to the chaos. I'm used to the drama. I'm used to the transactional and conditional love. When I was with her, we used to discuss this. And one of the questions I asked her is this: the way you were treated, would you want, and she had two children at the time, would you want your children to be treated that way? And
Mm,
she said no. I was like, that's the first step in breaking it. Because they may have seen you gone through it. Now they're seeing you do it. It's going to be normal for them. And what do you think they're going to do? They may go out in the world and do the same thing, right? Hurt people, victims
yeah.
victimize others. It's an unfortunate cycle and it's an unfortunate pattern. We touched on patterns, we touched on cycles. That was one way that she was able to identify it because she had someone, in that case, me and whomever after me, to help her identify it. What are some of the other ways that we can help people identify some of the patterns that maybe aren't serving them in the way that they want to, and it's time to let it go?
I think you have to know, first of all, I do think you have to learn what's healthy and what's not healthy. Because I didn't know it as a kid and I had to learn it as an adult, you know? So the things that were repeated were like talking about me behind my back. That's unhealthy, right? Um, uh, Not supporting or judging everything that you do. That's unhealthy. Um, Expecting something in return when when your parents do something for you or when anyone does something for you. Oh yeah, so I took you out for lunch last week. You should take me out for lunch today, right? Like that's transactional, right? So we have to learn that those actually are not healthy. Oh, and I'm going to say parents, I know this is going to be an opener for you, but ignoring our children is unhealthy. Ignoring the behavior is unhealthy. I want to repeat that many times because I know a lot of times we've been taught to ignore if our child is having a temper tantrum, to ignore if they're talking, they keep repeating the same thing and you're tired of it. To ignore them is unhealthy, right? Because what are you telling your child? You're saying, you don't matter. That's actually how they interpret it, right? I don't matter. So the healthy thing is to sit with them in their moment of struggle, to show them that you love them and that you're their ally. Okay. So those things you have to learn, you have to know it's not healthy. And usually unhealthy behaviors don't feel good. So you're kind of your internal compass is that didn't feel good. Oh, I just yelled at my kid. That didn't feel good. If it doesn't feel good, usually it's a signal that's not healthy. Don't do that, right? And then learn what else you can do instead. So the foundation is learn what is healthy first, and then be aware that you're being unhealthy. And like I said, people will be mirrors to you because healthy people, not unhealthy people, but healthy people will be mirrors to you. Like our kids are they're like innocent and flawless in the beginning. Like they come to us with all of this loving honesty. And our job is to listen to them. We can tell by their reaction. Like if we're getting mad, they start crying, we know we're being unhealthy, right? Or if they're having a tantrum because we were harsh with them, then we know maybe we should have handled that differently. Or if your teenager's talking back to you because you took away their phone, maybe you should have had a conversation with your teen first before you just take away things. Like this is the stuff that I teach is that we have to be more relational with people because our parents weren't relational with us. They were just like, I'm the boss, you listen to me. Well, actually, you know what? That's not healthy. That's not relationship. That's why kids who grow up in those homes don't want to see their parents because they didn't get love. They didn't get acceptance. Don't be surprised if you parent that way that your adult children don't want to see you, right? Because you didn't fulfill their needs. You didn't give them what they needed. And instead, you infringed on their boundaries. You infringed on them. So we have to change it. Our kids and the people around us that are good people, like are healthy people, they will say, you know what? Don't like when you did that. They'll be honest with you. And your job is to take it in. There was a dad, he was complaining that his son told him that uh, he doesn't he doesn't like to share things with his dad. And he was like, I work so hard, I sacrifice, this is childhood pain, right? I do this and I do that for you, I don't understand why he doesn't come to me. And so I said, this is really good feedback. Ask your son why. And so then he did. He listened to me and he asked his son, and his son said, is because he's overprotective. I said, well, that's good information for you because that's childhood pain is when you're overprotective with your kids. That's good information for you because he's growing up and he doesn't want to be contained. So you have to stop that, right? This is relational. This is like, I'm going to listen to what my child is telling me and I'm going to try to change because I didn't know that was unhealthy because I grew up that way. You know? It's
I
really
want
amazing.
it is because you made me think about the child that when you mentioned being ignored and you're saying and then you also share that this is what I wanted. I wonder then how many of those children grow up to have an avoidant attachment style, right? Where
Many of us.
anytime there you go, right? Like once they enter adult situations, let's say from work or romantic relationship or even with their friends, anytime something comes up, I was taught if I have strong emotions or even soft emotions, I avoid them. So they don't ever talk. And that's okay. And I put that in quotations if you're alone. But once you start interacting with other people, that is going to be a difficult journey for the person that you're going to interacting with. From the perspective of the people that's going to enter the life of someone who grew up that way, where they were ignored, it was conditional love. How can we help them in those situations with people like that?
I think, I know who I am now, and I know um, I know that I have some insecurities from my childhood. So because I know it, then whoever I'm in a relationship with, because I'm single now. If I have a relationship with a man, I'm gonna tell him, I'm insecure about because I haven't heard from you. Like, and if the man doesn't accept that and still continues to not explain why they didn't call or anything, then I know that's not the right man for me because I need validation and I need a feeling of security. And if a man is going to be with me, he needs to give that to me because I didn't get that as a kid. And so I need that now, right? I think it's okay to ask for what you need that you didn't get as a kid, you know? I was ignored. Like, please don't ignore me. That's a trigger for me. Be honest. Tell your partner what it is that you need because you didn't get it as a kid. This is all part of the healing, you know? You know that what your triggers are because when somebody does it to you, it makes you feel upset. It makes you feel insecure. It makes you feel, uneasy. Then you have to address it. If it's an honest, good relationship, you have to address it. You have to say, when you ignore me, I get triggered because as a kid, my parents ignored me. Please don't ignore me, right? There you go. Now you have understanding.
How did you reach that point where you're able to communicate those things to future partners or anyone in general?
I think it's age. Part of it is age. I'm not being quiet anymore. But just think it's like I realize that the things that are unspoken hurt relationships. That's what I've learned, right? When I didn't speak and I wasn't honest and didn't address things, then I still carried the pain of that. But when I address it and I make it known, this is the way I am. I need validation. I need to know, if you're busy, that's the reason you're not calling me. I'm not unreasonable, but I just need to know because I have this insecurity, right? Then it just makes it healthy. Like honestly, communication is so important in relationships, but you have to feel safe with the person to tell them that. So if you can't be honest, like if you tried it once with the guy you're dating and he was like, ugh, whatever, I'm busy, like give me a break, right? If he gives you an attitude about it, then you know he's not safe and he's not the one for you. You have to have a safe relationship to be vulnerable, to say, I need this. I didn't have this as a kid. And if you love me, you're going to try to give that to me, you know?
I work with, from a coaching perspective, the majority of the clients I work with are women, and they're women over the age of 40, 45. So many of them are either married with children or they're single with children. Very few are single without children. So the children are part of the equation. And
Mhm.
they've been married, so either that's part of the equation as well. I've heard that perspective from that, well, this is my insecurities, help me with it because I'm still working on it and I don't want to be triggered. And from a communication perspective, that's beautiful and I love that. What I've heard on the other side from men now, and this is primarily single men, is there's two questions. One, why is it my responsibility to help you with your triggers? And maybe women say this too, is just I'm not around single women like that anymore. So I'm going to say that men and women say that, or they ask that question. And two, they want to know, what are you doing separate from your partner when it comes to healing that? So when it comes to these triggers of insecurities or this need to communicate, what would you say to those who are coming in with children who've been there, done that, and they're asking, okay, I've done this work. Why do I now need to help you with yours?
Okay, so I'm just going to say nobody's responsible for your triggers but you. Okay. So it's not about if a man is thinking he's responsible for your triggers, it's not about being responsible for your triggers. It's about understanding your partner. So it goes both ways. If it's the male who needs validation, then he needs to tell his female, I need validation. I need this, right? I have trust issues because my ex cheated on me. And so I need to know, like, where are you? I don't want you to just like not talk to me for a while and I have no idea where you are. Like, it's really important that I know where you are. I think that's reasonable. If you're a couple, then you're working together. It's not about I'm not responsible for you and you need to figure it out yourself. No, you're in a relationship. And a relationship involves two people. And so you work together so that you are both feeling that you're getting your needs met emotionally. And an emotionally mature man is not going to question that. Emotionally mature man is going to say, yeah, okay, I know my woman needs this from me, but I want her also to help her with her triggers. But here's the thing, you will help her with her triggers when you address them, right? You're going to help give her that security that she didn't have as a child by listening to her because she feels safe with you. Safety in relationship is so important, right? So if you love that woman, then you're going to let her talk about it because it helps her to process it and to heal. And it also helps you to understand her better and vice versa, right? It's not about that's your thing. You figure it out. That's not a couple. I'm sorry. That is not a couple. You work together to make it work. Men out
Amen,
there.
sister. Amen.
I know that was super strong, right?
Yeah, yeah, interview's over. Like,
Mic drop.
mic drop. But what I loved about that is true because I think some people forget that it's not about me fixing you. It's about me growing us. And by
Mhm.
growing us, if you're triggered by something that I can help resolve, why wouldn't I do it? It's like the old joke, right? You and I look relatively close enough to age, right? It's the old joke, the toilet seat. Men leave it up, women leave it down, right? How many
Yeah.
decades, how many TV shows, how many movies have we heard about that being an argument when people get together? But
Yeah.
no one communicates it.
Yeah.
No one talks about it, right? So it's something like that. We may laugh at that, but hey, there's some people, I don't know if you use public washrooms. There's sometimes I go to public washrooms, I'm like, oh my God, like, what is this? I would hate to see their home, right? Because it's just a mess.
Yes.
But if we just came to our partner, we said that, Clarissa, as a child, my mother and my father never said, Terrain, I love you. I didn't know if they did. I had a roof over my head, I had food in my stomach. That was how they thought showing love was, but that's not the love I needed. The love I needed was words of affirmation, to quote one of the love languages, right? I
Yeah.
didn't get that. So, Clarissa, when you tell me that you love me, it really means a lot to me because I didn't hear it. When you send me
Yeah.
that good morning text message, same thing. To you, it might just be two words, three
Hmm.
words if you include the word love, boo, whatever it is that you want to call your partner these days. It means the world to me because when I look at my phone and I see a message like that from you, it fuels me for the rest of the day because now I can go out there and I can conquer the world and make it safe and secure for you. And I
Hmm.
might be old school and say that that's a man's job, but I will die on this hill and say that is the man's role to
Yes.
make the woman feel safe and secure within your arms, which is when you're in the house together or together, and outside of your arms when she goes off and you go off. She
Yeah.
wants to know that she can think of you and automatically she thinks that no one, she's bulletproof.
Hmm.
When you're on your mind, she's bulletproof. And then the reverse would be that I'm going out there because when I look in my woman's eyes, when I look in Clarissa's eyes, I'm just making up names as we go along. But when I look at her eyes,
Hmm.
I feel empowered. That bad day I had on Monday, when I got home and she told me that she loves me, it doesn't matter what happens on Tuesday because Tuesday is going to be great because I have the fuel.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's how I look at relationships. That's how I look at families. When you're working with some of the people that you're working with, what do you think are maybe some of the common obstacles that people are facing in their lives, in their families?
We don't focus enough on relationship. Honestly, it's true. We focus on what the person should be doing. Like our parenting, a lot of parents struggle with this. They feel like they need to be guiding or directing their children all the time, but they're not interested in the deposit, filling up the emotional bank account, which I said is the first thing. That is the first thing you do is fill up the emotional bank account because the emotional bank account helps your child to feel safe in the relationship and then is more open to receiving feedback from you, right? Is more open to listening to what you have to do and that what you want them to do. But we don't focus enough on relationship. We focus on how we think people should be or what that person should do for me. And then we don't communicate it, right? Like I remember my aunt and my uncle, I went over there for dinner once and my aunt was complaining that she was cooking dinner for us and she was chopping all the vegetables and my uncle was just sitting there doing nothing. Okay, I just want to tell you, my uncle is like the best husband ever, right? So she's complaining about him. So then I was like, well, did you ask him if he could help you? She said, no, he should just know. I said, how should he just know? And then my uncle was like, if you asked me, I would have helped you. Right. And so this is the problem. We make these stories in our mind that people should be doing things, but we don't tell them what it is that we need. And the communication is key. Like people are afraid to talk. I know there are many parents they don't they're afraid to talk to their kids, to tell them, to have a discussion with them. I think it's because growing up, our parents didn't talk to us that way. So we didn't learn how to be in relationship. But if our parents talk to us in that way, like, what do you think, honey? Do you think this is a good idea? Or do you think this is safe? Instead of, don't do that. I don't want you to do that, right? That's not a relationship. A relationship isn't telling someone. A relationship is involving the person in the discussion. right? And that's where we get tripped up in relationships is we make assumptions in our head of what they should be doing. Oh, and they don't love me because they're not doing it. We make this story in our head, and then we don't address it with the person that's supposed to love us, right? I think that the communication part is huge. And then not filling up the emotional bank account. Because I don't care how many years you've been married, you have to daily be demonstrating love, right? Even if it's like making your wife her coffee every day, that is demonstrating love. Or, asking your spouse how was their day, connecting. That is demonstrating love. And so relationships grow with this filling the emotional bank account. Because now you say, wow, somebody cares about me. Somebody loves me. Somebody cares how my day was, right? We say that with our kids too. How was your day, honey, at school? What happened? Tell me all about it, right? People giving us that extra emotional feeling, it actually helps us to live better lives. And we need it from the people that are closest to us. We need it from our parents. We need it from our partners. We need it from people that are closest to us, the emotional feeling. And that helps us to be confident and go out in the world in a more bold way, you know?
Do you think people underestimate the value of emotional connection?
Yeah, I think that people have an assumption that um I'm just gonna say like, okay, so if you're a woman that is always expecting the man to cater to you and do everything for you, and then you don't give anything in return, or vice versa, that's not a relationship. That is not a relationship. A relationship is you're both giving to each other. And sometimes, I watched this YouTube video about marriage. This woman, this 96-year-old woman, she had such good advice. And she was like, it's not 50-50. This is a myth. Sometimes it's 10-90. Sometimes it's 30-70. It depends on the stage that you're going through because we are we go through straight stages in our lives. And if somebody in the family is struggling, then you're giving more to help them. It's with our partner. If your partner lost his job and you know he's struggling now with his mood and his starting to get depressed or whatever, you're going to give more because you have more to give, right? If you just had a baby and you can't function properly, your spouse is going to help you. He's going to give more. It's not going to be 50-50. It is not 50-50. Take that off the table because that ruins relationships. The objective is helping each other in whatever stage you're in, whatever you need help with. That's healthy. That is a healthy family. That is a healthy marriage is when you are willing, you're not stuck on the 50-50 and you're willing to give more if your partner needs more and vice versa.
I'm glad you mentioned that part because it reminded me of an interview that I saw with it was two ladies and two men. The two men were in relationships and the two women weren't, separate from each other. And they posed the question, since you mentioned communication and your partner and give and take in a relationship, right? It's not 50-50, it could be 10-90, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
They pose that question to the men, and the men answer, they pose the question to the women. One of the things that I noticed between the four people was that they replaced the word communication with teach.
Mm,
They said, can I teach my partner to love me the way that I want to be loved? Can I teach my partner to do some of the things that I enjoy and they can teach me? The two men didn't have an issue with it. One of the two women didn't have an issue with it. This other woman instantly triggered.
mm,
F bombs, I'm not a dog, I'm not this. So one of the guys asked the question then, do you have children? She's like, yeah, I have two kids from a previous relationship. She wasn't married before. And they asked, do you teach or do you teach your children like tableside manners, how to be polite, things like that? She's like, yes. And then the guy asked, why is it okay for you to teach your kids, but it's not okay for you to be taught teached?
Hmm.
And she was like, well, it's different because they're kids and I don't want a man teaching me. I was like, but your father taught you how to
Yeah,
speak,
yeah,
right? When you go to work.
yeah.
So for her, it it turned out it wasn't the word communication, teach, or otherwise. It was the fact that she doesn't want to be told what to do from a partner. She was okay doing it to her children. She's okay doing it, receiving it from her parents. She's okay receiving it from her job. But when it came to a relationship, she was like, no, you have to accept it as it is, to your point, right? Like, I'm going to take, and not giving anything. And I share that example because that could be a man and that could be a woman,
Yes,
right? Where they enter a
yes,
relationship and they'll say that I'm going to do what I want to do and you have to accept it. They can become a parent. It's my way or the highway. And sometimes I wonder, and I'll get your input on this, Anne, do
hmm.
they truly know or realize what their behavior is doing to the environment around them? What do you think?
Well, that's a person that's not healed. If you cannot be taught by someone else, that is an indication that there is childhood pain, right? Because now you're not open. You're closed because you were hurt. And so you're protecting yourself, right? So that person needs help, right? With the healing part. And you should not be in a relationship if you cannot uh, give. Like, I'm totally fine with people being selfish. I'm totally fine with people just living their life. Then don't get married because marriage is about partnership. Partnership where you both are are working together, right? On the relationship, on finances, on the children, you're working together. That's the foundation, right? So if you can't do that, if you won't listen, if you can't be taught, then don't be married. Stay single. Stay single the rest of your life. I have friends that are single and they're perfectly happy being single because in their relationships, they did so much of the giving and they're tired of giving. So they don't want to be in a relationship again. I'm totally cool with that. You had that experience and it was not good because you felt so depleted and your partner didn't work as a partner in helping to fill you. Then yeah, for sure, I get that. But not every man is like that. There are men that want to give, and it actually gives them purpose and confidence when they can give to their woman. And there are women that also want to give to the man, but people don't want to be taken advantage of and be the one only the one giving, right? That's not relationship, right? That's like um overstepping. That's taking advantage of someone. That's not healthy.
Let me ask you one final question, Anne, before I let you go today.
Sure.
I want to give you three wishes. And these are things that you can wish that people knew about this question. So, what are three things you wish people knew about balancing parenthood and their romantic relationships, and why?
Um, okay. So the first thing is we start from the inside out. So we're going to fill ourselves, know ourselves, and stay to our core and values, and have this filling up every day. Okay, that's the first thing. You have to start from the inside out. Your life will not change if you don't start from the inside out. The second part is you have to learn what's healthy in relationships. If you don't know what's healthy, then you're going to repeat those patterns that you learned in your childhood, and it's not your fault. Okay? It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility because now you're an adult and you're not that child anymore. So it is your responsibility, especially if you're a parent, to learn what's healthy so you can teach your children what is healthy so that the cycle breaks and that they will have healthy relationships with their, you're actually changing generations. It only takes one parent. You don't both have to be on board, but if it's one parent is I'm going to be healthy with my kids and teach them healthy relationships, you're already breaking cycles. You're breaking that cycle and it's going to impact generations, right? That's powerful. Um, and then I just want parents of childhood pain to know you were always worthy. Your parents didn't have the capacity to give you what you needed. So take away the unworthiness as part of your identity because it's not. And you are valued and you are lovable. Allow people to love you because you didn't get it as a kid. Allow healthy people to show you healthy love so you can learn it.